Leroy, good morning and congratulations, my man.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure.
I know I'm big time when I'm on your show. I mean, I'm big time.
Dude,
Yeah.
I feel so good for you because I know how long you waited. And I'm wondering, did you have to adjust your attitude and expectations every year to prepare to not be let down and kind of be depressed if you weren't getting in each year?
No, actually, I was the same guy every year. I remember my mom taught me this. I was 11 years old. She told me, have 2 speeches. I said, Mom, because my mom was amazing. I said, Mom, what are you talking about? That's too deep. What do you mean? Explain that. She said, always have 2 speeches. The first speech, when you make an A, you have a speech to tell me how you did it. I said, what's the other speech? She said, the speech when you make a D, as in dog. If you didn't do too good, tell me how you failed to do that. So I've always had 2 things ready to go. If you get the phone call, I knew what I was going to say. If you get the knock, I know how I was going to act. So it helps you be very measured. But the good thing about the guys who are waiting, Jim Porter, the new boss, he understands the anxiety of a guy waiting for so long to get in. And I think that's the reason why this class is so good, because people like Tony Baselli, Sam Mills, who had 1 more year, rest in peace to him, and for Cliff Branch, who had to go through, his family had to go through it, so they understand.
We had Tony Baselli on Friday, and I said, is it special to be part of this class with a number of guys that have been waiting for a while? He said, absolutely. These are the guys that I want to go in with, and he specifically mentioned you because he's down in Jacksonville. You're a Jacksonville native, and he said, going in with Leroy Butler and going in with these guys means the world to me. Do you feel the same way about this class?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I watched the game at the Super Bowl with his 2 sons. I mean,
Wow.
One of his sons went to Florida State, and Adam, his other son, is like 6'6", and remember they waited like 5 or 6 years every year. They thought it was going to be the year, but it was just a great connection, And Seymour, a young man I thought was. And the thing about it, when you go run the gold jackets, some of the guys were coming up to me like, Leroy, we thought you were already in.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it's a compliment, but it must, when you hear that, be like, oh, man, if you're hearing that before you get in, you're like, yeah, I thought I should be in as well. Probably, right?
Yeah, right. Thanks. I said, yeah, I thought I'd be here 10 years ago, but in is in. That's what Chris Carter told me. So you try to enjoy it, but you try to understand that with this kind of power and platform, it makes you do it in a way that your family take advantage of it and let your teammates know without them, there's no way you could have made it.
Another guy that would have gotten in, I think, had he stayed healthy, is Sterling Sharp. And he was not on the 96 team, but boy, in the late 80s and early 90s, when you guys turned that entire franchise around, he was as dynamic a wide receiver as we had maybe outside of Jerry Rice in the NFL. Had Sterling stayed healthy, you think he's in Canton?
No question about it. And thank you for bringing that up. I mean, I really appreciate that. That's just so nice of you to do that, because we always talk about the projection for players. We did it for Terrell Davis, who's one of my better friends. And Sterling had a bad neck injury. He caught 100 passes, D.A., when that was a big deal.
You got that right.
Now, Cooper Kupp, that's my guy. Thanks, shout out to Cooper Kupp, because he helped me win the fantasy league. He caught like 147 passes. Michael Thomas down in New Orleans caught 147 passes. But, Sterling did it when it was tough, and they knew they were going to double him. So hopefully he'll be the next Packer that'll get in, him and Coach Mike Holmgren I'm praying for as well.
Sterling Sharp, not to belabor the point, but he was one of the greatest receivers right before the numbers totally exploded. He would catch 100 passes, 105 passes, back when you would lead the league usually with 85 or 80 passes.
Right.
And he was just stacking numbers. It was pretty amazing to watch. Being a Packer Hall of Famer, being in Canton as a Packer is a really special role. You see that history around that organization all of the time. What's that club like to be with those guys that are Lombardi Packers or now your generation of Packers as well?
Oh, great question. I think it's 28 of us now. And the reason why that's a good question, because we don't have fans. We have shareholders. We're not like the other 31 teams. This is different. And I go to these games every year, and I look up there at D.A. and I see all these great names and, you know, the Hall of Famers and the retired jerseys. And I just remember my youngest daughter saying, Dad, one day your name is going to be up there. I didn't really think about it until I saw Charles Woodson last year. But my oldest daughter said, but the difference would be you played all your years with the Packers. That's a big deal. You don't see that very much in the world, especially when, you know, it's been discussion like people like Tom Brady had to leave. Aaron Rodgers was in discussion. You don't know if he's going to stay. So you just don't see guys stand with their own franchise, and that means a lot to me. It really does.
Leroy Butler joins us this morning on the show. What an excellent player he was, and now he's a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. How does it feel to now walk amongst legends? I know that growing up you were a huge football fan, and now you're mentioned alongside, I'm sure, the icons that you grew up rooting for.
You know what? D.A., the first year I was a finalist, I saw Roger Staubach, and he was my hero growing up, a huge Cowboy fan.
Yeah.
And I saw him, I just started trembling, like, man, it's Roger Staubach. And then next year, you know, we had COVID, so I wasn't able to do it. But this year I went up to Mel Blount. When I got in, I said, Mel Blount, I hated you, man. He said, why? I said, 'cause you beat my Cowboys, man. You beat my Cowboys. He goes, yeah, Leroy, I never understood that. How can you be America's team if we always kick your tails? I said, nah, it's worse. I mean, I love the guy, but those are discussions you have. And we also talk about in that room, two things real quick, was everybody's a GOAT in there. You know, like sometimes in the barbershop, who's the greatest of all time? When you have that jacket on, everybody's a GOAT. And then it really got emotional, D.A., when they gave me my number. I said, what's that? Well, you're number 357. There's only 362 players in the hall. And that's when it hits you. Your breath just leaves your body, that you're in a class. You can't get traded. You can't get cut. There's no dispute over contracts. You're in, and you're a GOAT. And it just means a lot to me.
That's pretty amazing. And I also think it's really neat that the way the NFL votes in the Hall of Fame is a bunch of voters have to get together in a room, and they debate your candidacy. And they've got to convince everybody in that room that you are deserving. And if there's an outlier or a holdout, et cetera, that guy's got to be convinced that you're a Hall of Famer so that you know when you go in, there's been these discussions about your resume. It's not just a blind vote or an anonymous vote. There are intense debates and conversations, and when you get that gold stamp, that is the gatekeepers going, this guy, we talked in a room together, and we said, this guy belongs in immortality. That's a pretty powerful thing, isn't it?
It really is. And I told my wife this, you know, who's like been amazing. The families, when they go through this anxiety of waiting, I told my wife, now I know what it feels like when a young lady meets a nice young man, and it's been 5 years, he's never proposed. It's been 10 years, he's never proposed. It's been 16 years, he's never proposed. Then you give up. I'm done. I just don't know what's going to make him give me the ring. Next thing you know, you give up, and somebody's banging on your door, and it's Charles Woodson. I mean, and that jacket is like a wedding dress. I mean, you put that on, that's what every young lady wants, and that's what every man, the 32,000 players who played in this game, is thinking, am I good enough to be a Hall of Famer? I mean, I don't know, but one day it'd be great to make it. I mean, we used to say Super Bowl as well, but I know what it feels like you have no control. And as you say, they debate it, and you just hopefully somebody would give you an opportunity to do that. And it just makes you feel amazingly once you get that particular knock.
There are some guys that have won a Super Bowl but aren't in the Hall of Fame. There are some guys who are in the Hall of Fame but haven't won a Super Bowl. Knowing that you got to taste both, how sweet is that?
Oh, hey man, that's a good question, because I remember my mom telling me, because I was disabled, special needs kid, and she was like, and I told her I wanted to play in the NFL. And she was like, if you ever want a Super Bowl for the kids in the projects, that is so impactful. But she said, if you ever make it in the HOF, and at the time I didn't know what HOF stood for, she said, Hall of Fame. I said, oh. She said, if you make that, that's the pinnacle of your life, because that puts you on a platform to speak out about your story. Growing up, more kids will hear it, and that's like a whole nother level. It's just, I mean, I was shopping the other day at Pick and Save here in Milwaukee, and some kids were staring at me like, "You're in the Hall of Fame. Why are you shopping for groceries?" I said, "Because I'm a normal guy." And my daughter did text me that the other day. She said, "You'll be the only Hall of Famer that's still in the community and live in the community in Wisconsin." So I didn't really think about it. These kids, they're like 13, 14 years old. They're just staring at me. "We thought you'd still be in L.A. You go buy a big mansion." I said, "Nope, I still have no money, and I live in Wisconsin." They thought it was funny.
Boy, no pressure from your mom. You hadn't even been in the league yet. You hadn't even played college football yet, and she was talking about getting into Canton and the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Man.
Yes. I mean, that's what parents do. I mean, my mom, a single parent in the inner city, Jacksonville, Florida, it's 90 degrees outside, no air conditioning, and she passed away like 5-6 years ago, and she talked about, because she wanted me to really strive for it, but out the cliches of striving for something, working hard. She said, "Let me get to the top let you know where the top is going to be. So when you know it's rocky going up, you'll say, that's fine. I can go through these rocky negative stuff, being bullied and stuff like that, because I know how my life is going to end." And my mom, I know she was so happy, looking down on me and saying, "Oh, I knew you can do it." So that's what I always thought about. So anything negative, I just kind of blocked it out and just kept thinking about things like that.
Well, your story specifically, I find to be so inspirational and so beautiful in terms of life, because it was not easy for you growing up. As you mentioned, the disability, growing up in the projects, et cetera. And yet your football life is so beautiful in that you're part of a historic franchise that you personally helped turn around. You have these battles with iconic teams of the 90s, like the Cowboys and the Niners. You guys finally break through after losing those playoff games to win in 96. You then taste the Super Bowl championship. You go back the next year. You're now in the Hall of Fame, walking amongst the immortals. I mean, boy, we tell kids to dream, but if you really thought about it, you at, let's just say 10 years old, how could you ever even dream of this beauty that ended up being your life? It's pretty incredible, isn't it?
It really is, and it's a couple things that was impactful in my life, because I want to meet Tom Hanks one day so bad, because that was my story. Forrest Gump with the braces, I had the same braces, and I just remember my grandmother saying God gave everybody this talent. I said, "Well, wait a minute, grandmother. I'm in the special education department. Kids walk by like I'm in a zoo. I wave back at them like, 'Hi, how's it going?' And I was in a class of 30 kids. I was the only one that didn't get a sleep. They had a sleepover at some kid's house. I didn't get an invitation." She said, "You have a unique gift. Your gift is you can ignore anything negative." And I remember, I'm from the South now, D.A. This was impactful. My school was called Robert E. Lee.
Yeah.
So my mom had to sit me down and kind of tell me this, like what's going on, with being in the South, just some people's not going to want me to make it. But when I was named one of 33 players in the state of Florida to be on the all-century team, I say, man, that I don't know why God chose me to navigate these tough waters, but he was helping me just keep leaping, leap, no pun intended, leap over everything. And when Coach Bobby Bowles made one home visit that year to give me a scholarship after I was a Proposition 48, that means I couldn't go to college if he didn't want to give me a scholarship. He drove into the projects and gave me a scholarship anyway. So the story is just really amazing. Some people don't even believe I was from the lodging homes, because they tore them down and built some more apartments. And then you had to do a deep search. Man, that was one of the most crime-riddled neighborhoods ever. And I made it out of there.
And now there's a coffee shop and a cheesecake factory on top of that, right?
Good point.
Man, well, you've always been so generous with your time with us, and so I've been waiting for this day for a long time just to say congratulations, because I think you've been deserving ever since you retired, and your story is just a beautiful one, man. So thanks for all the time you've given us over the years. I feel so great for you, and thanks for giving us time again this morning. And we're all huge Leroy Butler fans over here, man, so thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say for the guys who are out there waiting, the finalists, you guys will get in. Jim Porter's a great guy. That's why doing the knock with the teammates was amazing. I'm very good. One of my best friends in the world, Tiki Barber, his brother Rondé Barber, he'll get in one day because he was a finalist. So he understands the anxiety the guys are going through. So they're going to make sure these guys have been waiting for a while on the fast track to get in. And in is in, guys. So I'll just be praying for everybody, and God is good. Thank you so much for having me, D.A. It means a lot.
My pleasure. Thanks so much. Leroy Butler joining us this morning on the show.